So we're in our second to last week of this quarter. So we've been. Is this lesson 12 or 11? I think there's 12 in this quarter. Yeah. So and it's timing me. This is great. Okay. So managing in tough times. So the last couple of weeks, I feel like we've just been like really pressing into like financial success, and it's kind of stressful, like learning that we're doing things the wrong way and not at all, trusting the Lord in the ways that we should. So this lesson is like very to the point, and it kind of like encapsulates the whole series really, and that's just to like seek God first and always. So we're gonna go ahead and get into it. Are we good?
Yeah.
All right. So the memory text this week is Psalms 50, verses 14 through 15. So can I get someone to read that for me?
Offer to God thanksgiving and pay your vows. To the Most High, call upon me in the day of trouble. I will deliver you, and you shall glorify me.
Thank you. And I put a picture with this because I kind of want to give a visual of like what this looks like to me. So when I work with my students and when I'm like talking to friends, and I'm always like, we are at a crossroads every day, multiple times a day, and you can choose either danger or opportunity, right? But then I'm listening to this lesson, and I'm like, okay, no, you're really at a crossroads, and it's either your way or God's way, right? So you'll see in this picture that our way is very dark and not the most welcoming, and then to the left would be God's way, in that sense of just trusting Him and going forward with the plans that He has for us. I also just want to highlight the person's reluctance, because we're human, and sometimes we think, is this God's plan for me? Is this not? And it's kind of hard. We get foggy, I guess I can say, in terms of, is this my plan or is this God's plan, Frankie?
Yeah, sometimes we know better. We know which way we're supposed to
Right.
go. And like it's right in front of her. She knows the left is clear, right is dark, but sometimes we still are, like you said, reluctant, and not fully trusting God and, following His will, even if it does, like it seems.
You think you can manage the storm by yourself.
Right.
And I think too, when we talk about like managing storm and we talk about tough times, this lesson, even though it's talking about managing in tough times, it highlights a lot of like managing even when we're doing great and when things are fine, and really, still being prepared in those times. So hopefully we'll get to all of that.
It's interesting, especially this slide, because even though it's darker, sometimes it seems easier.
Yeah.
And God's way, you see the way, and sometimes it just seems a little daunting. Because I remember, because there's this thing in the back of your head is like the trials that comes with serving the Lord. But life brings trials to everybody. But it reminds me of how Israel reacted when they were on their way to the Promised Land. They wanted a smooth trek from Egypt to the Promised Land, but God took them into situations where even though He provided every day, there would be a moment where there was no water,
Right.
And then how would you react in that time of trouble? Turn to God or blame Him for bringing you to this place where there is no water? It's kind of amazing, because at that moment, He was about to bring water out of a rock for you. So it just, life, you might go and find yourself in a place where you're stuck, pinned against the wall, and be like, is this what being a Christian brought to my life? And then there's like thoughts of, it would be easier to just turn around. And so that's what they said. But God could hear that from His heavens. He's like, wow, why wouldn't you just call upon me in the day of trouble? Because I will deliver you.
Yeah, and there's going to be so many opportunities for us to kind of dwell on when we focus on the Lord and how He delivers through this study. So it's really good, and I hope I don't mess it up. All right. So there were a few different stories in the Bible that this week focused on, and that was Jehoshaphat and King David. So before we even dive into the scripture, can we kind of talk about the differences in these two men in the Bible between Jehoshaphat and King
Jehoshaphat
David?
and
King David, and how they may have handled trials, or is anyone familiar?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Joe.
Jehoshaphat is a great example because Jehoshaphat, his reign is characterized by the fact that he fortified the cities of Judah. He consecrated the people of Israel, of Judah, back to God, and he had them pray and come back to the Lord. And when the time came and the kings came to attack his Judah, he had made an alliance with Ahab of all people, which I found amazing as well. But I guess he had got a spirit, a right spirit within himself, that he even could work with Ahab.
And there was in the Hope Sabbath School this week, it talked about how he may have even felt like that reluctance, or even a little bit of fear because of what he witnessed Ahab go through.
With
and
Ahab.
he still turned to the Lord and was seeking the Lord.
Yeah, and not only himself, but he told the people.
Right,
He made the
exactly.
people come to him.
Yeah. And on the flip side of that, for David, I think his example is a lot of his situations.